Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. The Ford government has unveiled its 2024 budget. It was officially tabled by the Premier's finance minister today and includes record-setting spending and a growing deficit in the face of economic uncertainty. Our senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, has the highlights.
The Premier and the finance minister all smiles on budget day, but listen carefully to the budget speech and you'll hear some warnings.
For the global and national challenges facing our public finances are real.
For the fiscal year that wraps at the end of March, the province is looking at a deficit of just $3 billion. But for the coming year, the red ink is forecast to balloon to nearly $10 billion. Other than the first year of the pandemic, that's the biggest Ontario deficit in a decade.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel. We can see it. But that said, we are not out of the tunnel quite yet.
The government blames the deficit on slower than expected economic growth. The budget predicts Ontario's GDP will rise just 0.3% this year, and it shows government revenues from sales tax, the LCBO, and cannabis are all expected to shrink. Despite that, the finance minister isn't talking cuts.
We're not backing down from investing in what matters most, and we are not going to increase costs on our people.
So what's new in the budget? As CBC revealed first, some auto insurance reforms. Drivers will be able to lower their premiums if they opt out of certain coverage.
Allow for consumers to have more convenience and choice.
There's money to start planning for a new medical school at York University, the first in Canada to focus primarily on training family doctors. But the overall health budget rises just 1.3%. And the opposition pounced.
Once again, shortchanging our public health care system.
The message that the Conservatives sent today is that what matters most to people right now, accessible health care, affordable housing, the cost of living, don't matter to them.
The budget does include more than $3 billion allotted to get high-speed internet to every community in Ontario by the end of next year, and $46 million to buy police forces, 4 new helicopters.
We're choosing to get it done. We're choosing to be there for the people of
The minister chooses to wrap his budget speech with slogans from the PC's 2 winning election campaigns. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
And as you just heard, the budget includes money for new helicopters for police. Now, the government says it's all part of its goal to help police forces dismantle organized crime networks and crack down on auto theft, a problem that has become rampant and increasingly violent across the GTA. Dale Manukduk joins us live from Toronto Police Headquarters tonight. And Dale, what kind of money is the province putting towards this?
Yeah, Kelda, Finance Minister Peter Bethenfalvy says the GTA is in the grip of an unacceptable spike in auto thefts. In Toronto, incidents have risen almost 200% since 2017, hitting an all-time high of over 12,000 cars stolen last year. Now, the province is going to spend nearly $100 million to combat the crisis. That includes funding those 4 new helicopters you mentioned. And the Toronto Police, they don't own their own choppers. So Toronto Police Chief Myron Dempsey says this is a welcome resource that the force will have access to.
Our police are asking for more tools, and we're going to be there for them. In the 2024 budget, our government is providing $49 million in supports to help police services across Ontario crack down on auto theft.
In addition to that $49 million, this budget is also providing $46 million over 3 years for a new air support program, including purchasing 4 new helicopters for GTA police services.
These helicopters will help police crack down on auto theft, as well as street car racing, carjacking, impaired driving, while assisting in apprehending violent criminals and locating missing persons.
Auto thefts are a challenge across Canada. Just last month, the Prime Minister led a national auto theft summit, but the crisis is particularly concerning in Ontario.
So 2022, it was $1.2 billion Canada-wide. Ontario was $700 million of that as far as vehicle theft when it comes to claims. Last year, for 2023, Ontario alone was just over $1 billion.
What's causing further alarm is violent carjackings.
Organized crime groups will get their hands on those vehicles with whatever means possible. If they don't have the technology, they do resort to the violence.
On Monday night, Toronto Police and 31 Division disrupted 2 separate carjackings. Officers got both vehicles back, recovered a gun, and arrested 4 people. In a statement, Police Chief Myron Demke says access to helicopters will modernize police frontline response across jurisdictional boundaries in the GTA, facilitating the tracking and apprehending of criminals involved in violent crimes such as home invasions and carjackings. Air support will enhance police capabilities to respond to these often dynamic and dangerous events. In the past, Toronto police who don't have their own helicopter have had to call on the help of other police forces to track and apprehend criminals on the move.
What the air support will do will allow, the ability to greater track these vehicles and then interdict them before they actually reach the port.
That's where most of the cars end up before being shipped overseas. But not everyone is convinced the choppers are a good measure.
You need the tools in place to be able to stop this huge issue to all people living in our community. I don't think it's going to happen with a helicopter ride.
This former Toronto Police Staff Sergeant says helicopters are reactive rather than proactive.
I think that money would be better spent in an additional funds to allow for further investigation used to infiltrate this new culture, this new subculture with respect to auto thefts.
Now, Kelda, tomorrow, Brian Gass, who you heard from there in that report, he'll be here tomorrow at the Toronto Police College alongside the Organized Crime Unit to reveal the results of Project Paranoid. That's an auto theft investigation. They'll display some recovered vehicles and firearms. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Dale. That's our Dale Manukduk live at Toronto Police College tonight. And meanwhile, on the housing front, the finance minister says new home construction is still a priority for the government, but the budget shows housing starts are projected to go down in Ontario, meaning the government is still on track to miss its own long-term housing goals. Queen's Park reporter Lorena Redekop has more on that.
The budget is called Building a Better Ontario, but there's actually less building than last year when it comes to homes. Housing starts were at 89,000 last year. This year, they're expected to be slightly lower, a big drop from the high in 2021 of 100,000 and down from 2022.
Look, I've been around long enough to see interest rate cycles up and down, economies up and down. Housing starts up and down.
Despite the numbers, the finance minister says housing is a top priority for this government and has been for years.
And what we won't waver on is our commitment to find more ways to get more houses built, and condos, and student living, and senior living, and supportive housing.
But even going forward, future years still aren't projected to hit 100,000 new homes a year, well below the government's target.
I have to say this is another catastrophic failure. This is a government who says they're in the housing business. They failed Ontarians once again.
I mean, this is a budget of no, and my biggest disappointment is just the failure to address the housing crisis. We know the housing crisis is the #1 issue for Ontarians, and it's what's driving the affordability crisis.
Well, it's deeply concerning.
The NDP wanted to see more for affordable housing.
People are looking for better. They're looking for better when it comes to homes that they can afford, and this government and this budget is not delivering.
Some housing changes the government is making with this budget, empowering more municipalities to charge a vacant home tax, beyond just Toronto, Hamilton, and Ottawa that already can, and allowing municipalities to lower taxes for developers building purpose-built rentals. The budget also mentions modular housing as a way to speed up development, with parts built off-site and moved, but it makes no commitment. The government has been talking about its housing goal for years already, going back to the previous housing minister.
A re-elected PC government will build 1.5 million homes over the next 10 years.
The next phase in our bold and transformative plan to get 1.5 million homes built in the next 10 years.
And at least 1.5 million homes by 2031.
But that's looking increasingly less possible, including with this budget. Lorena Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Mayor Olivia Chow spoke to reporters following the delivery of the budget, saying she's optimistic that the province's priorities are in line with Toronto's. But she says questions remain around funding for the city's transit projects, despite a deal reached between the province and the city last year.
TTC have some serious challenges. It's called state of good repair. We have a huge backlog. So are our old housing stock. Both of those elements we need funding now. So there will be more conversation because the New Deal only covers for 3 years. And then going forward after these 3 years, where do we go? So the conversation is continuing.
Welcome back. The Toronto Raptors' Jonte Porter is under investigation by the NBA over sports betting irregularities. It comes as baseball star Shohei Ohtani is facing scrutiny over a betting scandal involving his former interpreter. Greg Ross has more.
Jonte Porter is not exactly a household name. The 24-year-old has only played 26 games for the Raptors this season. But instead of talking about his play on the court, today his coach was fielding questions about gambling allegations involving Porter.
I cannot comment. The investigation is ongoing, and so all of those questions, they got to go straight to the league, and they will be the best equipped to answer those questions.
The league is taking a close look at 2 games. One on January 26th when the Raptors played the LA Clippers. The other on March 20th when the Raptors faced the Sacramento Kings. In both of those games, at least one online sportsbook noticed an unusually high number of bets placed on some of Porter's in-game stats. Specifically, bets were placed against him on reaching predetermined totals in certain categories, like total points and how many three-pointers he would finish with.
This is a fringe roster player who happened to be seeing some minutes because the Raptors were dealing with some injuries at the time, and there was a lot of money going in on people thinking that he was not going to hit certain statistical milestones.
Porter left both of those games early after playing only a few minutes.
All of Jonte Porter's unders were bet, paid out a lot of money to the point where some major sports books lost what they said was the biggest prop loss of the entire season, and right away that triggers immediate red flags, something's going on.
This investigation comes just days after Major League Baseball announced it was looking into a gambling scandal involving an interpreter working for Japanese star Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Ohtani denied any involvement.
You can't watch a sporting event and not see bombardments of advertisements for sports betting these days. So it's not crazy to think that this was going to grow, and certainly it's grown with the fans, but now there's some questions about how much has it grown with players.
Players tell us it's something they are asked about more and more.
It's definitely on social media. That's what everyone's DMs after games is about.
And people are always just like, you screwed up my parlay, you couldn't get 3 rebounds, whatever they say. Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure, online a lot.
It's not clear where Jonte Porter is right now. The Raptors would only say he's away from the team for personal reasons.
I was just praying for him. Obviously, you don't want to see somebody go through something like that.
The Raptors say at this point the league has not spoken to any of their other players or coaches. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Workers at one of Toronto's largest cultural institutions have walked off the job. About 400 Art Gallery of Ontario employees are now on strike after rejecting the AGO's latest contract offer. As Ali Chiasson reports, they are demanding better wages.
Show me the Monet. I think that really paints a picture of what this strike is really all about. AGO workers from gallery curators to carpenters are on strike after negotiations fell apart after 10 months. The union representing 400 AGO workers rejected their employer's latest offer. Wages are a major sticking point, saying they haven't kept up with the cost of living.
We need a wage that reflects our respect and value to actually live and work here. Over 60% of our members are part-time, so we have a workforce that's emerging 40 and under, 35 and under, and they're having to work multiple jobs. They're fully university educated, and they want to be able to do their best work and have a career.
Unionized workers also take issue with the AGO's expansion plans, with a project estimated to cost about $100 million, while their wages, as they see it, stagnate.
How can you have $100-odd million and not look to your employees and think, well, maybe we should make sure they're fine too?
I've got to give you a supercut of some of the picket signs here. Modern art, medieval wages, 90s fashion, not 90s wages, and one saying their demands are falling on deaf ears. And yeah, that's a Van Gogh cameo. I mean, creatives are gonna create even on strike.
No wages!
No art! I'm an art handler and an exhibition installer. It's really hard to find full-time work. Work is really precarious. We're working on these short-term contracts. We don't know, the work isn't consistent. I think that they know that they're the biggest game in town and that they know that they can push people around, right?
For its part, the AGO has not commented on the workers' demands or on this strike action at all. They only say that they hope to come to a resolution soon, but until then, the AGO remains closed. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
The artistic director of Hot Docs has quit, along with other programming staff, ahead of the festival's 2024 run. It's the latest blow to the country's largest documentary film festival, which has been facing financial turmoil. Eli Glasner was at Hot Docs' lineup announcement today.
So I was really excited to come to Canada where there'd be no drama. And so here I am.
That is Dawn Porter, the director of a new Luther Vandross documentary, which is scheduled to open the Hot Docs Film Festival. And as she was suggesting, there is certainly a lot of drama at the film festival, and not all of it on the big screen, but in fact, behind the scenes. On March 20th, the artistic director stepped down, citing personal reasons. And recently, 10 programmers with the festival have resigned from Hot Docs. Marie Nelson is the Baltimore-based president of Hot Docs. She says the festival, which is the largest documentary festival of its kind in North America, is facing challenges due to audience behavior coming out of the pandemic.
You know, for 2 years, we shuttered our cinema. For 3 years, we weren't able to have a full in-person documentary festival. And all of those impacts are now showing up, especially now that there are no longer any sort of pandemic supports. You know, some extraordinary gifts and donor support that we've had is not necessarily there right now.
But while Nelson is asking for more support from audiences, from donors, and certainly from its major corporate sponsors, this morning, as Hot Docs announced its slate, protesters are here in Toronto asking the Documentary Film Festival to distance itself from one of their major sponsors, which is Scotiabank, citing concerns with its investment in an Israeli weapons manufacturer. So while Hot Docs faces pressure from a lack of finances and protesters, it is just one of many arts organizations and festivals facing declining support and an uncertain future. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
And you are looking at a live shot of Toronto, cloudy tonight with a bit of light rain, sitting at 7 degrees. Let's go to meteorologist Colette Kennedy now with a look at your forecast. And Colette, I'm liking the warmer temperatures despite the rain.
Yeah, that's right, Kelda. Always a bit of a trade-off, right? Nice to have these, milder temperatures that we experience through the day today, but coming with some wet weather along with it. Look at those daytime highs. Plenty of communities in the double digits. Peterborough at 13, Kingston as well, and Windsor, you too, 13. Toronto coming in there at 10, St. Catharines, 12 degrees for that daytime high. And just as we're looking ahead as to what's to come, we still have some more showers to work their way through, but kind of tapering off just to some drizzle in most cases. There's a little exception. I'll get to that in a minute. 6 for the overnight low, although the temperature will start rising towards the morning hours. And tomorrow, how about we do it again? 10 degrees for that daytime high. Some sunny breaks. I am anticipating that we should get a little bit coming in, but there'll be quite a bit of cloud cover in there as well. So where we had those thunderstorms, this is that line breaking up before it reaches the Golden Horseshoe, but there are still some pockets here with some heavier downpours. And as well as this comes together into eastern Ontario, still a few areas where the intensity of the rain will be a little more significant here as we roll forward into Wednesday morning. Then there will be areas starting off with sun. We'll see some of that cloud kind of fill back in behind this system as colder air will be filtering in. The odd little flurry possible. That's northwest, though. of the Toronto area and north of Windsor as well. What's really nice is that as we go into Thursday, we are going to have a strong ridge of high pressure building in, and with that we'll get clearing skies and see some sunshine for a day or two. All right, those winds a little bit blustery earlier today, and seeing that still around the lakehead, but as we move into Wednesday, it's a southwesterly flow, those gusts at times over 30 towards 40 kilometers an hour, so a little bit breezy, especially through tomorrow afternoon. The totals in terms of the rainfall accumulation from the whole system going through are really in that 5 to 15 millimeter range, and that higher end of this has to do with the areas getting a bit more of a downpour, London towards Kitchener, out of the remnants of some of those storms. Overnight temperatures, this is at 2 a.m., Toronto at 7 degrees, will dip to that 6 and then be coming back up as we go towards the morning hours, eventually making it to 10 degrees. There's that sunshine building in, including into Good Friday. We could have some showers into southwestern Ontario, but it does look like for the GTA will stay dry into the weekend, Kelda.
Like the sound of that. Thanks so much, Colette. Finally tonight, he is Mississauga's Poet Laureate. Ayomide Bayowa is only the 4th person to take on the honorary role, holding that title since 2021. With his term coming to an end this spring, we met up with the artist to hear his reflections.
Sometimes I just have to talk to myself in a different way, the best way I know, which is poetry, right? Sometimes I don't want distraction from using my phone. I just tend to go straight to my book and write random thoughts. They don't come as a full poem, of course. Just come in lines, fragments of expressions. Then you bring all these poems, lines together, and then you piece them together and become a whole poem. This is a poem I wrote in 2017. I became a poet laureate in November 2021. I chose to apply to be a poet laureate to just see if this is my purpose. When I got in, I realized that this is more of my purpose because I want to be there for other people and actually bring up other poets like myself. You as a poet laureate, you need to be ready to stand out for people. You need to be ready to be people's mouthpiece. You need to be ready to sometimes actually take time off of your own personal writing, writing schedule and write for other people. And also you need to tap into the cultural programming, the multicultural programming of the city of Mississauga. We have a lot of cultures here, and you need to be ready to learn and be an active participant in these cultures, because there is no time for you to stop learning. You need to keep learning. That way you can actually be a person of the people, because you learn the culture, you can express yourself in the way other people see themselves.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.